I feel like I've looked different in every single one of my videos so far. Hello. So at the start of 2025, I made a promise to myself that I was not going to spend the year just watching YouTube compilations of clips I've seen a million times. I was actually going to, like, watch real movies and TV shows I've never seen before and actually read books. My goal was to read one book every single month, and although I dropped the ball on that, I have ended up reading 12 books, so I did it, guys. This year has been so fun for me. I had a list where I had every month and then the books and movies and TV that I watched and read, giving myself an excuse to watch movies that I feel like are important parts of culture that I've never seen was really, really fun, and I'm glad that I did it. And I could, like, gamify it a bit. So in October I watched, Halloween movies and I read a horror book. In June I watched Paris is Burning for the first time, and obviously last month I watched a bunch of Christmas movies for the first time. Stuff like that. It was just fabulous. So here is all the books that I read in 2025. Starting off in January, I read The Bullet That Missed and The Last Devil to Die by Richard Osman. These are the last two books in the Thursday Murder Club series. I ate this series up. I genuinely... I think I read the first two books in maybe December, maybe November, but I know that I read them all in quite quick succession. And this was after I had a period of not really being able to read. I hate to use the term brain rot, but seriously, like, I feel like short form content got its little hands into me. Sitting down and reading a book felt so long. But there were a couple of books that helped me get back into reading, which I think I have them to thank for this whole year of actually promising myself that I would read again, because I used to be a bookworm. I was one of those kids, And then last year, or 2024, I read The Handmaid's Tale, and I ate that up in like 2 days. And I loved it so much. It made me cry. And then I started the Thursday Murder Club, and I got through this series so quick. I did not want to put it down. Maybe I should actually say what it's about. The Thursday Murder Club is a murder mystery series set in the retirement village of Cooper's Chase. It has a gorgeous cast of characters. I fell in love with these characters. I love them so much. The actual mysteries in some of the books are weaker than in others, but for me it doesn't really matter because they are kind of the cherry on top of this amazing ensemble cast. That being said though, I'm not saying that the plots are not good, because they are. Obviously, being set in a retirement home and having a cast of characters who are in their 70s and 80s, the book deals with the concept of death and getting older and, generally facing your mortality, which makes for a really moving and touching setting. I think it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that older people are like different creatures. This series of books showcases how wrong that is, and I connected and even related to these characters so quickly. Like, Joyce is me. Joyce is me. I kin Joyce. Anyway, that's my addendum. I really recommend picking up Thursday Murder Club. It's just it's fab. In February I read Klara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. This is a sci-fi about an android or an artificial friend called Klara. If I had to pick 2 words to describe it, it would be warm and bittersweet all the way through. I actually started reading this, I think, almost exactly a year before I finished it. I borrowed it from somebody and I wasn't able to finish it before I had to give it back. But I really, really wanted to finish it, and I thought that this was the perfect opportunity. And I'm really glad that I did. The world building is really interesting. It doesn't explain everything to you in detail. It kind of, because it's being narrated by Klara, it kind of acts as if you already know everything about the world, and it just reveals things to you in those little pieces. And it works really, really well. It works really well. There's a plot twist of sorts that is quite shocking, but it just works. In March, and I think it went over into April if I remember correctly, I read Welcome to Night Vale by Joseph Fink and Jeffrey Cranor. If you recognise the title, yes, this is the first, I think, novel set in the world of the fiction podcast Welcome to Night Vale, which I love. But I don't necessarily think that you need to have listened to Night Vale to read this. There are obviously characters that you're going to know more about and already sort of be in love with before you start the book, but even if I wasn't already a listener, I would have still fallen in love with this world and these characters. It has parts that are, like, laugh out loud funny, parts that are genuinely spooky, and other parts that are, like, made me cry. Sometimes all three at once. If you've never listened to Night Vale, but you do like horror comedy with a lot of heart and the concept of a weird town where supernatural things happen and the residents just kind of live with it, then you will like this book. In April, I read The Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan. This is a fantasy novel written in the style of a memoir by a famous dragon naturalist. This is her first memoir. It takes you through her childhood all the way up to her first research trip where she saw dragons in the wild for the first time. It is a really, really moving book. Much like Klara and the Sun, although the books aren't similar at all, it doesn't explain every little tiny bit of the world building to you. The author assumes that you also live in this world, and so you're sort of handed all of the details in little chunks, as if I was just talking to you about the world and assuming that you lived in it too. And it really, really works. You do start to feel like you are a part of this world. The dragons are so cool. The characters are really easy to get invested in. I haven't read any of the other books in the series. I think there is a few more, but I really, really want to, so maybe this year. In May, I started The Innkeeper's Song by Peter S. Beagle. And I say started because something happened in the middle of this book that made me put it down for a few weeks, and on my list it's in June. So Peter S. Beagle's most famous work is The Last Unicorn. I've never actually read it or watched the movie. Those two things I definitely need to be accomplishing this year. But much like The Last Unicorn, The Innkeeper's Song is high fantasy, set in a classic medieval sort of fantasy setting, with knights and innkeepers and mages and wizards. Oh my. And in that way, I really enjoyed it. It's written with very flowery language, which is sometimes a little bit hard to get your head round. This book is quite dense, and it did feel a little bit hard to read, but I can't blame the book for that. That is on me. I didn't really know what to do with the orgy involving the 16-year-old boy. High fantasy from the early 90s. You got to be ready for it to throw things at you that you weren't expecting. But I guess I recommend this if you enjoy the works of Peter S. Beagle. It was good. In July, I read nothing. And in August, I read How to Kill Men and Get Away with It by Katy, Brent. Oh, what a book this is. I made a whole YouTube video about this book that I would love if you checked out. This is a thriller about social media influencer Kitty Collins, who snaps one day and starts murdering all the men that she claims deserve it. It is a feminist revenge tale, except that it's not. It really, really misses the mark on what it's trying to do, and other things that I said in my video about it. This book is trying to convince me that ghosting is on the same level as attempted sexual assault, and I'm not going to have it. I do recommend it because it was easy to read. It's just not a good feminist revenge thriller. In September, I read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. I'm so annoyed that I got a copy where it's called Blade Runner and has Blade Runner art on the front. I always want, when I get like novels that have been turned into movies and had like the name changed and stuff, I always want to get the original title, like as the author intended, and art that isn't related to the movie, especially for a book that is so damn different. But anyway, that's by the by. Blade Runner is one of those movies that I watched once and I hated it so much, and I still don't like it. However, in September, my friend took me to watch it on IMAX, and that second viewing did kind of change my view on it. I still don't love the dubious consent, and I really struggled to watch that scene again. In fact, I don't think I did watch it. I think I shut my eyes. But it is a beautiful, beautiful movie. Like, the shots of the cityscape, they're just fabulous. Yes, I know they were done with miniatures, and it just gives it such a surreal look. It's just beautiful. So when I came home from watching Blade Runner for the second time, I immediately got the book because I was so interested on what the original book was like, and I wanted to know if it handled Rachel's character any better than the movie does. And it turns out she's a completely different character. So what are we doing? But I did enjoy this book. Weirdly enough, I actually really like Deckard's character in the book. I hate him, but I like him in the book. I think he's kind of just an awkward guy, and I enjoy that. There's a bit where Deckard finds a little spider, and I hate spiders so much, but because he lives in a world where real animals are so rare, he reflects on how amazing it is to find a living creature and just be existing in sort of the same space as it. That is so interesting to me as somebody who hates spiders so much. But like, he's right, it is amazing that there are these little living creatures everywhere, and yeah, it would be different if that was not the case anymore. Hey, why did they adapt it into a movie that was like, that's not even the book? The movie is so different. It's so different. You could have just done an original movie. In October, I read The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. I can absolutely see why this is a classic. It's a surprisingly short book, and it doesn't give you a lot of suspense payoff. Like, I was waiting for the apparition, you know, the big apparition moment, and it just never comes. And at first I was like, oh, I'm disappointed, I wish it gave me more. But the more I thought about it, the more I decided that the tension and the suspense and really the anticipation, paired with all of the other little things going on throughout the book, that's the real horror. If you've ever had the type of anxiety, which most people have, that sort of tells you that all of your friends have stopped liking you and want you to go away, you will find this book scary. It's extremely unsettling, and even though I didn't find it that scary as I was reading it, parts of it have really stuck with me, particularly like what Theodora saw in the garden is one of the things that like goes through my mind when I'm trying to run up the stairs. I've like turned the lights off and I'm trying to come upstairs. You know, I think it's a classic for a reason. I really recommend it if you're looking for a kind of spooky read. I loved it. In November, I read 2 books to sort of make up for the few months where I didn't read anything. And the first of those was Digital Scum, Resistance is Juvenile by Alisha J. Prince. Digital Scum is a nihilistic social commentary on the state of the world that isn't written well. I do not recommend this book. Please don't buy this book. But if you are interested in what happens in it and why I hate it so much, watch my video on it. To cleanse my soul, after that, I finally finished The Dangerous Edge of Things by Candida Lycett Green. I had been reading this book for like months and months. I found it really hard to get through at first because the plot doesn't really kick in until a bit later. It is a true story of 1 year in the childhood of the author. And really, knowing that it is a true story makes it really incredible because the things that happen in it are really narratively, they're a really good story. It follows the year when Candida considers that her and her friends began to grow up. Things started to change in their little village and they began to be fascinated with more grown-up ideas. But even the things that happen that are more mature are told through the lens of these naive kids, giving everything that kind of softness, that naivety that you have when you're that age. It's also really sad. It's really moving. A lot of big things happened in this year of her childhood that are really genuinely upsetting. There's also a twist right at the end, like in the epilogue, which you wouldn't expect. You wouldn't expect a true story to have a twist, but like there is somehow, and it ends the book feeling really, really like bitter. It's not necessarily a happy ending. I mean, it is a good story, but it's also a true story, and there aren't really those solid conclusions in real life. However, the final page is so genuinely like, it leaves you just going, oh. But I'm glad that I finished it. I would recommend this book. I would recommend almost all of these books, even the ones that I didn't love or I wouldn't read again, had things in them that makes me want to share the experience with you. Apart from this, in December, and in genuinely the last couple of days of December, I read The Great Gatsby. I had totally dropped the ball on reading a book in December, and I was looking for something kind of short to read, and it felt like actually reading a classic was a pretty good idea. And one that we already had on our shelves because I'm out of money and I couldn't buy any book. I had known a lot of the plot points in this book already and a lot of the characters already just by the nature of sort of existing in those kind of circles online. You can't swing a cat without coming across a daisy hitting someone with their car joke. At least on the parts of the internet I grew up in. Maybe not for you, I don't know. But it is a genuinely good read. I love the idea of the jazz age in America, the sort of bright young things of the 1920s. But I really do want to know more about it because I know that it's more than just the aesthetic. You know, it wasn't all sparkles and glitter, and it was a interesting political time, and I'd love to know more about it. But this was a very interesting look into that era. One thing that I did not expect was that Gatsby is totally pathetic. And I say that with so much love. I love my wet cat men. I mean, you see that picture, that meme from The Great Gatsby of Leonardo DiCaprio, like, with it raising his glass, and you're like, oh, this is a suave gentleman. And maybe they do depict him that way in the movie. I haven't seen it. I'm gonna watch it. Gatsby in the novel is like... He's so funny. He's such an idiot. The part where Nick invites Daisy over so that her and Gatsby can, like, reconnect, and Gatsby's already there, and she arrives, and Nick is like, wait, where's Gatsby gone? And he's gone outside so that he can, like, arrive, and Nick opens the door, and Gatsby just walks inside and goes in, and then Nick just goes, it wasn't funny. Like, he knows that I was giggling at the image. He's like, it wasn't funny. That's so good. May he rest in peace. If you've been putting off reading it, you know, like it's on your list of classics that you should read, I think give it a go. It's such a short read. It's not long at all. Just go for it. Technically, those are the 12 books that I read in 2025. But my sort of and a half is Wuthering Heights by Emily Brontë. And I say that because I have not finished it yet. I'm over halfway through it, but I started it on like the 30th of December, and I really tried to get through it all. But it's dense. This book is dense. Obviously, one of the main reasons that I started reading it was because of the movie that is coming out. Has come out? Has it come out yet? I haven't heard anything about it. I wanted to give myself the right to have an opinion on the movie because I'd never read it before, and I realised quickly that I've been mixing it up with Jane Eyre. But I will tell you, I'm over halfway through it, and I would not call it the greatest love story of all time. However, it is a classic piece of gothic fiction, and I think if it's another classic that you've been putting off reading, I think give it a go. Maybe I'll let you know what I thought in my 2026 book video. I do have to say, the premise is really funny, how the narrator is renting a place and his landlord is so weird that he must know his entire life story. I have to know. This man is too weird. I have to know what happened to him. That is the level of nosy that I aspire to be. So those are all the books that I read in 2025. I'm definitely going to be doing this year again. Kind of renewing my New Year's resolution to read a book every month. I'm going to try. January might be Wuthering Heights. And I'm going to continue watching movies that I've never seen before. I'm just going to try and stick with it because it's been really good. Don't get me wrong, I've watched a lot of YouTube compilations of clips that I've seen a million times. However, less than I would have done had I not made this resolve. So if you once loved to read and you've fallen away from it, it has run from you, do try and get back into it. Reading it's so good. It's so good. It's so good. There are shorter, start off with shorter books. I will say that even though I have successfully read 12 and a half books this year, I did really struggle with the longer ones. And when I say longer, I mean like the normal length of a novel. I did tend to stick to the shorter things. The Haunting of Hill House is not very long. Great Gatsby's not very long. The only reason I picked up Digital Scum is because it's not that huge. So I'm still trying to work my way back up to reading the longer books, and that's fine. We all start somewhere and we'll end somewhere else, hopefully. So thank you so much for watching this video. I will link down below the 2 videos that I have made on a couple of these books, How to Kill Men and Get Away With It, and Digital Scum Resistance as Juvenile. And hopefully I will see you next year for more reading and stuff. Happy New Year. Bye.